We're in the old State House located on the Green in historic Dover. The Green was established in 1717 when William Penn sent surveyors here to lay it out. He had gotten control of Delaware in negotiations with the king's brother, the king being Charles II. And he needed access to the ocean after he had obtained Pennsylvania by exchanging an IOU that his father had gotten from King Charles II. And he used that in 1681 to buy Pennsylvania. 1 year later, he negotiated with the king's brother, the Duke of York, to get the 3 counties that today we call Delaware. But they were called until 1776 the lower 3 counties of Pennsylvania. Delaware started out as part of Pennsylvania. And on June the 15th, 1776, 3 weeks before the Declaration of Independence, the Delaware General Assembly, meeting in Newcastle, Delaware, declared separation from the King of England, the people of England, and Pennsylvania. And then 3 weeks later, as you know, became one of the 13 states by the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The building that we're in was going to be a replacement courthouse for the little 1722 courthouse that William Penn had authorized for the people of this county. In 1786, the county tore down the old courthouse, intending to build a new courthouse. And they were laying brick in 1786, and the state government came over and negotiated joint use in the building. On the first floor, as you come in the main, in the front door, is the courtroom. And as far as this building goes, a fairly large room with a British-style courtroom with 3 judges, room for witnesses, the jury, table shared by the prosecuting and defense attorneys, and then a special seat of honor, as you were, the prisoner's dock, which would be for the accused. And then there were no seats for the audience. If the public wanted to come, then they could stay as long as they were comfortable standing and watching the ceremonies. Also, there were county offices that we even have today, such as Recorder of Deeds, Register of Wills, Prothonotary, Chief Clerks, and so on. Here on the second floor were 2 chambers. The House and the Senate would have been the process of making laws, proposed in one house, passed in that house, and then referred to the other house. Then, as you know, they don't always agree, and there would have to be a meeting. And there's a room directly behind us, which was the meeting room for both the House and the Senate. And that was really all the space that the state government had in this building. And then this building was used until 1933, when the General Assembly moved to the new Legislative Hall, which is about 150 yards from here.
Where we are now is the courtroom of the old State House. Many of the people who came to use this building were heads of state, noblemen and women, military heroes, and notable people of the community. But the majority of people who came in to use this building and who have taken advantage of this building over the years and even today are just ordinary, everyday people. Some of the stories that we like to tell are really wonderful stories of inspiration. For example, the story of James Summers. James Summers was a free African-American man, and one day he walked in the side door of the old State House to the Recorder of Deeds office in order to obtain the freedom of 2 slaves. I have the document here, a copy of the document. To whom these presents shall come. And it goes on to mention James Summers of Murder Kill 100 in the county of Kent, state of Delaware, a free Negro. Send greeting and know ye that I said James Summers for diverse consideration, especially moving, do manumit, liberate, and set at full liberty, and by these presents doth manumit, liberate, and set at full liberty. But if you go down to the fourth line, you begin to understand who are the people who he's manumitting. My affectionate children, namely Thomas Summers, who is now aged about 5 years, and Ruth Summers, aged 7 years, on or about the 25th day of December. Mr. Summers walked in and freed 2 people who were his own children. About 50-some years later, after that event, after James Summers, who walked in selflessly to the Recorder of Deeds office and freed his own children, about 55 years later, we find the probate of his son Thomas. And we find that he's a landowner and he's very well-to-do. As we continue to look at the story, that story transcends through time. In 2008, the surviving members of Thomas Summers had their family reunion here at the State House. They kicked it off. So we are proud to be a part of that family. Another story that I'd like to tell you about is a story of another ordinary man. He lived west of the old State House, west of Dover. His name was Samuel D. Burus. Samuel D. Burus was a free man during a time when many people were not free. They were enslaved. Mr. Burus, he could read, he could write, and his passion was that everyone should be free. So in his adult life, he decided to become a conductor on the Underground Railroad. He was responsible for helping many people escape enslavement through Delaware. Here in the state of Delaware, if you were a person of color and you were found aiding and abetting slaves, it was a crime worse than that of murder. Well, as fate would have it, Samuel D. Burus, he was caught aiding and abetting slaves. They brought him here to this very courtroom, and they had his trial. And of course, he was found guilty, and he was sentenced to months in prison, plus he was fined. But at the end of his prison sentence, as his final punishment, he was to be sold into slavery in the Deep South. So at the end of his prison sentence, his hands were chained and his feet were chained, and he was led to the front steps of this building, and he was auctioned off like livestock. A man by the name of Isaac Flint sold. Isaac Flint, he made his way through the crowd, that old slave trader. He paid the auctioneer. He seized Samuel Burus, and he put him in the back of his wagon, and he rode off of the old Dover Green. About 2 miles down the road, that old slave trader, Isaac Flint, he pulled that wagon to a stop, and he turned around to Samuel Burus and he said to him, "Fear not, Samuel Burus, for your freedom has been purchased with abolitionist gold. And I am tasked with not taking you to the Deep South, but north to Pennsylvania, where you will join your wife and children, and you will continue to live your life as a free man." And he did. The stories are what the brick and the mortar is all about. It is the stories, and it is the human story. This building was built to house the citizenry of Dover and of the state of Delaware. And all of the people who came through it, all of them, whether they were famous or elected officials or military heroes or just ordinary hardworking people, all of them have wonderful stories to tell, and all of them have made history and have created their own historic moments in time.